We spend so much time these days staring at screens. You're looking at one right now. If you're anything like me, then sometimes you want to unplug and get away from the screens, but you still want to be on top of the things you need to do. You want to be on top of what needs to happen in your life. Throughout my life, I have always come back to using journals to some capacity. They've always had some place in my organization system ever since I had discovered Ryder Carroll's bullet journal method years ago. The official channel has tons of tutorials on how to get organized, but I'm going to show you what I do. I kind of use a version of the bullet journal method. And if you use this, it's a nice, simple way to stay on top of everything in your life and not have to use a screen to always do it. So this is how I organize my life in a notebook. One factor of the bullet journal method that I think is super important that I have found incredibly useful to me is called an index. Index goes at the beginning of your journal, or it can go at the beginning of a big project that's going to take a lot of pages. Before I did bullet journaling, when I tried to keep up with journals or notebooks, I would fall away from them. Months would go by, years would go by, and I'd come back to it and I would have no idea what's in this notebook. There's just scribblings of a madman in there. The index helps eliminate that. The index is a list of your pages in your notebook, kind of like a table of contents that you are building as you write in the notebook. If I open up a new journal, I'm going to create my index, and I'm just going to put index at the top, and I'm going to give it maybe 2 to 4 pages of space. And I'm going to add page numbers as I go. If you have a notebook that has page numbers, you can use that. If you don't, it's easy enough as you're going through the notebook to make page numbers. Let's say I'm starting this in May and I'm going to create a page that shows me my whole May view. I will go back to the index and I will add that into the index, and I will add the page number that May takes place on. I'm currently demonstrating with a notebook that I'm already in, so the page numbers are going to be much higher than the ones you're starting out with, but you just put whatever page that starts on. Maybe I was going to plan out a friend's birthday party on a page. I'm just going to brainstorm things like gift ideas, things we could do, stuff like that. If I have a page dedicated to that, I would go back to the index and I would put the title of the page and I put the page number. This means you will have a table of contents when you come back to this notebook later. I highly recommend it. Give it a shot. It really changes the game with notebooks because you will be able to find these obscure things way easier than you could if you just have 10 notebooks and you wrote random stuff in each one. So that's the quick and dirty of the index. Let's go to the monthly view. In the monthly view, I use 2 main pages. This is for personal life. Sometimes with work, I will add a few other pages. So maybe it might be 3 to 4 pages for a work monthly view. But for personal, I use one side of the book as my calendar, has dates on it. I use the date as well as the day of the week. I separate the Sundays and Mondays with a line so I can see where the weeks break. And as the weeks go on, I will check them off and put X's. I don't necessarily use this as my main calendar though. I use Google Calendar to keep track of my appointments because I personally use the bullet journal more for month-long processes, but something way in the future like a dentist appointment, I make sure that's on my digital calendar so I get reminders and things like that. Let's say it's May 1st, I'm making this spread here. Then I will glance at my Google Calendar. If there's anything that I kind of want to have a quick reference of in here, like birthdays or events or things like that, I might jot them down. But again, I am using my Google Calendar as my main calendar. I will glance back to this for important dates to see what's coming my way when I'm reviewing what's going on this month. But what I tend to use it more for is kind of a highlight reel. Let's say sometime in May, a friend calls me and tells me that they are getting married, they got proposed to. And that's super exciting. That's a big moment. And I write that in my daily log, but I might go back to the monthly log and add that in. In the future, when I'm glancing back at the month, I can see the important moments that happened that month. It's not so much getting everything that needs to be done in the monthly calendar side. It's being able to take notes and jot down things that happened, exciting things, things I want to remember. Because that's where it acts as a productivity system and a journal/diary kind of thing. You get to look back in these short little snippets of things I wrote. I can remember what happened during those times. That's the calendar side, but on the other side, I have a monthly task list. This is everything that's going to be going on this month, just the back burner list, the major list of everything I need to keep in mind. So if something happens this month, I will write down all of the things that are in my head that I need to take care of. This is the list of everything that needs to be done, and it will continue to grow over the month. And as things come in, if it's not something I'm going to do today, then it will go to this list, this monthly list, for me to keep in mind later. And throughout the month, I will come back to this list. I will check it. I might check it at the beginning of the week and see if there's anything I can pull from this month to this day or week that I'm working in. But it's just a master running list of everything that you need to keep in mind. I really focus just on a day-to-day view. So let's talk about the daily log. For the daily log, each day, whether it's the end of the previous day or the morning of that day, I write the date at the top and I write down the things that I'm wanting to get done that day. If you do a bullet, a little dot, then that is a task that needs to be done. You can X through it when it's completed, or you can do a line through the entire thing if it's not important anymore and you don't need to do it. You can do an open circle for an event. A little line, a little hyphen is just a note, just something you want to remember, something you want to note for later. And then I will sometimes add a plus for a longer journal entry. That's more like a journal, like a paragraph of just wanting to get things off my mind. Basically, I will just have this open and I will add things to it as they come up, and I will cross things off as I do them. And I'm kind of just living in that daily log for the day. Now you get to the end of the day. There's still dots that are not crossed off on your list. You didn't get time to get to them or something like that. What do you do with them? Well, you can either push them forward with a right arrow and just move them to the next day, or you can push it back with the left arrow. If it's something that I caught and captured today, that I was thinking I would get done today, but I didn't, but I know it's not gonna happen tomorrow or anytime soon, then I'll do the left arrow and I will rewrite it back in the monthly log, in that master list that we talked about earlier. That way, I'm keeping it clean. I try to clean up my tasks at the end of the day so everything lives somewhere. And in theory, I just have this little bit of list to work on. But why do I do this? Why do I do it on paper? Well, I've gone back and forth between using apps and using different software and using a notebook. But right now, I'm really enjoying the notebook because it keeps me from feeling overwhelmed. In today's hyper-productive era, these apps let us easily capture things. It's so easy for me to add things that I will get a list that is like 100 things long, maybe 200 things long eventually. And it just feels like overwhelm. It's just too easy to add things, and they just live there forever. And when am I gonna do it? I just keep putting it off. The thing about bullet journaling, which some people say is a bug, but it's Ryder Carroll actually says it's a feature, is that you do need to rewrite things a lot. So if I don't finish things today, then am I motivated enough to rewrite it for tomorrow? Because if it's important, yeah, sure, I'll rewrite it because I need to remember that this happens. Is it actually that important? There's a lot of things that come up in life that are not that important that we think we need to do, but we really don't. And they just live on these lists and gather dust. But am I going to push it forward? The same thing goes with the monthly log. You have your master list, and hopefully you're crossing things off throughout the month. But then we get to the next month. Maybe we get to June. At that point, I would make the June monthly log, and I'd go back to the May one, and I would look through the uncompleted things, and I would make a decision. Am I going to push them forward with that right arrow, or am I just going to cross them out with the line? Is it something that needs to take up my brain space? Do I need to think about it and have it on a list to think about? The more I've done it, the more I've realized how important that is to comb through these things and realize, is this important? Do I need to remember this? Do I need to do this right now? Is it worth writing down again? Because I've used a lot of apps in the past, and I always find myself getting burnt out because I feel such overwhelm from the mountain of tasks I make for myself. And most of them are things that are not important or that I don't need to do, but I'm just lost in the clutter of it all. And I'm not using only notebooks. I still use Technology and things like that. I use Google Calendar for all my events. I use Google Tasks if there's something very specific that I need to capture or do at a certain time, like I need to call someone at a certain time. I'll set a reminder, hey, remind me at this time to call this person. And I might have that in the notebook too, but the push on my phone will make sure that I remember at the right time to do it. I don't always have this notebook when I'm running errands, so if I remember something, then I will pull out my phone and I'll do the same thing. I'll say, in 2 hours, remind me to so-and-so. And the reminder might just be for me to add it to the notebook. So I might pop up in 2 hours, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I was thinking about that. I'm gonna write it down in the notebook in the master list to do some point, and I'll check it off my tasks list on my phone. Using this kind of hybrid thing where the one source of truth for what I need to do is in the notebook, but then using all this technology to kind of help assist that, it's working for me. And it's very nice and cathartic for me to unplug and just sit there, and my phone's over in the corner, and I can just sit there with the notebook and kind of plan out my day. I'm not looking at another screen at the end of the day after working a day looking at a screen. I'm able to just have pen and paper and craft a plan for my day or my week or my month. And it can be sloppy and it can be fun and it can be whatever, and I can design it however I want. I can make my pages look wildly different if I need to, or draw a picture or draw arrows to things. So yeah, that's how I organize my life in a notebook. It's the index, it's the monthly log, it's the daily log. As you can see, it's broad, narrower, narrower. And what I like is you can go back to old notebooks, a year, 2 years old, 3 years old. You crack open the index and you're like, what was I doing? It's May now. What was I doing May 2 years ago? Look at the index. You can see May 2 years ago. Flip to that page. You can see the calendar where you kept your highlights, and you can say, oh, this time we surprised a friend. We visited them and they weren't expecting us, and we did a birthday party. You're like, that was on the 7th. And then you comb through the next few pages, you find the daily log of the 7th, and you can see the little notes and the things you did. And yeah, it's like enhancing, like, you know, like enhance, like they do in the movies. That's like a nice side effect of doing stuff in a journal, because while we can keep all this stuff in apps and stuff like that, it's harder to just flip through an app. You know, it's easier to just grab a book off the shelf and flip through and see what was going on 2 years ago. I hope this was beneficial to someone. I was just sharing what I do. It's very similar to Ryder Carroll's structure and what he does. So you might have heard this all before, but just wanted to share what I do. Let me know how you organize your life. Do you like the digital stuff? Do you like notebooks? Do you like a little bit of both? If you have any other notebook related organization stories, let me know that, because I always get inspired by seeing what people are doing with notebooks. I guess I will see you in the next one. Bye.